Hey everyone, Rachel here. Today let's talk about reputation. What is reputation exactly? Can you provide a simple and straightforward definition of reputation? Let's explore with a captivating, albeit grim, real-life story. Jean-Claude Rhoam, the notorious French spree killer. He crafted a facade as a successful doctor with a prestigious position at the World Health Organization, influential friends, and a picture-perfect family. His wife, children, and friends all believed in this narrative. However, behind the scenes, Rhoam led a different life. He had never finished medical school, spending his days reading newspapers in parking lots or drinking in rundown bars, while pretending to be on business trips. Despite this double life, Rhoam worked hard to uphold his false reputation, orchestrating every detail, bringing home brochures, gifting souvenirs, and creating daily updates from fictitious travels. But financial problems eventually began to reveal cracks in his carefully constructed persona. Fearing exposure, Rhoam chose a tragic path, killing his family to protect his reputation. He valued the illusion of his status more than the lives of his loved ones. This chilling story, captured in Emmanuel Carrère's book, The Adversary, reminds us that reputations, though powerful, can become dangerous when they take precedence over truth and morality. Now, I have chosen a particularly sinister example in which the need for reputation is so irrational as to lead to personal catastrophe. But is reputation irrational? No, it is a valuable investment in shaping how we're perceived, and when managed wisely, it can open doors to personal growth and success. Now we're exploring reputation in the world of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the 19th main installment of series, released in 2017. In my previous video about Tears of the Kingdom, we explored other concepts of the series, like fear and wonder, and Rudolph Otto's idea of the numinous. We also touched on Ocarina of Time as a coming-of-age story, Majora's Mask as a meditation on loss, Wind Waker as a tale of responsibility, and Skyward Sword in relation to purpose and existentialism. Today, we'll focus on the theme of reputation, what it means and how it's portrayed in Breath of the Wild, through 3 short stories. Before diving into the topic, let's quickly summarize the plot. So be advised, there will be spoilers. Ready? Let's jump in. Imagine hitting the snooze button for a century and then being told, hey, it's time to save the kingdom. That's what happens to our hero in Breath of the Wild. So, Link wakes up. Instead of coffee, he's greeted by a mysterious voice that nudges him to check out the epic mess that Calamity Ganon has made of the kingdom. Talk about a tough wake-up call. Stepping out onto the Great Plateau, Link's first major sight is the breathtaking and slightly terrifying view of the kingdom in ruins, a literal breath of the wild. Before he can even think about exploring, he bumps into an old man by a campfire who seems pretty chill but has a catch. He won't hand over his paraglider unless Link fetches some spirit orbs from nearby shrines. After playing the old man's version of Scavenger Hunt, it turns out, plot twist, the old man is actually the spirit of King Rhoam, the long-dead king. King Rhoam lays down the heavy news. Calamity Ganon threw a massive tantrum 100 years ago, wrecking the kingdom and trapping himself and Zelda in the castle. It's now up to Link to play hero, defeat Ganon, and free Zelda before Ganon breaks out. There's a whole saga about ancient machines called Guardians and Divine Beasts that were supposed to stop Ganon but ended up turning on the kingdom because, Link's mission is to find out what happened to these mechanical beasts and the champions who controlled them. As Link crisscrosses the diverse landscapes of the kingdom, from lush forests to arid deserts, he boards each of the 4 divine beasts, freeing the spirits of the kingdom's fallen champions. Each champion, in a gesture of gratitude, bestows upon Link a special ability. Mipha gives him Mipha's Grace, a healing ability. Rivali gives Rivali's Gale, a flight-giving ability. Daruk gives Daruk's Protection, which grants immunity to attacks. And Urbosa gives him Urbosa's Fury, allowing Link to create lightning. The divine beasts lend their power, weakening Ganon just enough for Link to strike. But Ganon isn't one to go down easily. He transforms into the monstrous dark beast Ganon in a final bid to destroy everything. Cue Zelda, who hands Link the Bow of Light. A few well-placed shots later, Zelda uses her sealing magic, trapping Ganon away and allowing peace to settle over the kingdom once more. Until Tears of the Kingdom. King Rhoam and the champions, their spirits now at rest, depart to the afterlife, their legacy entrusted to Link and Zelda. Together, they look towards a future where they rebuild the kingdom to, and perhaps even beyond, its former glory. It's a new day in the kingdom, with endless possibilities on the horizon. Time for new memories, new legends, and maybe, just maybe, a well-deserved break for the hero. So far, the plot of the game. As I said before, Breath of the Wild is really a story of reputation. In order to understand reputation, we have to think of ourselves as two selves that condition who we are and how we act. The first self is our identity, made up of proprioceptive experiences, physical sensations embodied in the body. And the second self is reputation, that is, that powerful feedback system of the self on itself, which constitutes our social identity and which integrates into self-perception how we see ourselves. Like snails that leave a trail when they move, all our social interactions leave an information trail in others that can no longer be erased. It is a trace that is both indelible and fragile. We only control part of it, but we cannot avoid leaving it. Reflections on reputation have surfaced primarily in moral philosophy, starting from the 16th century in Europe, especially in Italy and France. These writings explore the human passions and vices, give up to the idea of constructing an ideal image of the human being, and favor a realistic portrait of our deepest motivations. The Prince of Machiavelli, published in 1532, is one of the first texts in which reputation is considered as an instrument of power for the prince. Think of it as the original guide to becoming a social media influencer. Okay, but what does it mean in the context of Zelda? Let's talk about King Rhoam. King Rhoam is a figure shaped by duty and tragic fate. Tasked with safeguarding his kingdom from the devastating calamity Ganon, his reign is marked by tough choices that put the kingdom's future above his own personal losses. His biggest failure was to militarize the kingdom's tech of the divine beasts to protect the realm. Think giant robotic beasts and autonomous guardians programmed to protect the realm. But here's the twist. When Ganon hijacked these tech marvels, the very tools meant to protect the kingdom turned against it, wreaking havoc across the kingdom. Rhoam believed beefing up the kingdom's defenses was the best shot at safeguarding his people. Yet, ironically, these decisions sped up the calamity they aimed to stop. In the end, Rhoam's strategy didn't just fail to protect the kingdom, it contributed to its ruin. In his spectral form, Rhoam chooses the guise of the old man to guide Link, symbolizing a humbled approach and acceptance of his past errors. This evolution from a ruler to a guiding spirit encapsulates a journey of growth and regret and balance between duty and humanity. As we slowly get glimpses into his journals through the game, we uncover more about Rhoam's character and the turmoil during his reign, struggling with the burden of kingship and fatherhood after the sudden death of his queen. These writings reveal a man pushed prematurely into a storm of responsibilities, grappling with the future of his kingdom and the fate of his daughter Zelda. And in turn, his daughter Zelda is invested with responsibility, mired in the knowledge of her reputation, of who she is meant to be, because of the reputation of the family to which she belongs, and the pressure to live up to the reputation of her absent mother. In Rohan's words, Zelda never cried, never faltered. I must assume her strength is a result of us repeatedly informing her of her duty to be a valiant and steady princess. Rhoam's rule is also a tale of conflict with his daughter, torn between his reputation as a king and his affections as a father. His journals lay bare, a heart wrestling with decisions that no leader should have to make. My heart breaks for Zelda, but I must act as a king, not a father. It is Aristotle's archetype of the tragic hero. Like the protagonists of ancient Greek tragedies, Rhoam's strict adherence to duty and his suppression of emotion set the stage for his downfall. The choice is reputation or family, the kingdom or Zelda. Times of crisis put people in power in front of ethical dilemmas, and defending the reputation can lead to carry out extreme, senseless, absurdly risky acts. The violent emotions associated with these actions may make us think that reputation must be a very little rational motivation for our actions. If Jean-Claude Rhoam had done the slightest cost-benefit calculation to decide what to do with his life, he would have realized that exterminating his family represented a much higher cost than losing his false reputation. Similarly, Rhoam could have recognized the risks of militarizing the kingdom's technology. It is implied in his journals that his decisions were driven by a sense of urgency and a desire to fulfill his role, which indirectly ties into his purpose of maintaining a strong leadership reputation. Now, I am not saying that Rhoam is a criminal like Rhoam, but I am only trying to underscore, with an extreme example, the potential extremity of actions taken in the name of reputation. When reputation eclipses values like rationality, it might become a perilous force, leading to disastrous consequences. The second case I would like to talk about is Mipha, the Zora princess and a champion in Breath of the Wild. Described as kind and soft-spoken, Mipha lived a life heavily influenced by her reputation for benevolence and strength. This reputation, while bringing her love and respect from her people, also placed immense expectations on her shoulders. It's much like being a popular social media influencer who is adored, yet continuously scrutinized. Every action magnifies under the public's watchful eye. The dual nature of her reputation, both a shield and a burden, was emblematic in her role as both a princess and a warrior. Her duty as a champion and her personal feelings for Link were deeply intertwined, which is exemplified by her decision to craft Zora armor for Link, traditionally given to a Zora princess's chosen husband. Tragically, Mipha dies during the Great Calamity, but her actions, driven by her status and the expectations it fostered, and her subsequent memorialization in Zora's domain, reflect how reputation transcends even death, shaping how individuals are remembered and honored. The Zora's reverence for Mipha after her death turns her into a near-mythical figure, illustrating the profound impact reputation can have on collective memory. On the other hand, the perception of Link among the Zora after Mipha's death highlights the darker aspects of reputation. Blamed by some Zora for not saving Mipha, Link's bad reputation becomes affected by events, often beyond his control, because he failed to take down Calamity Ganon, and Ganon was able to kill the champions because of this failure. This situation serves as a stark reminder of how reputation can become a source of blame and scorn, coloring relationships and altering how one is perceived within their community. This is the so-called informal reputation, which is the sum of the opinions that circulate about us. Slander itself, a real literary genre in pre-revolutionary France, as the research of the historian Robert Darnton shows, constituted a way of fighting against sovereign authority. Libertine writers, polemicists, scribblers of various kinds were at that time arrested and tortured for their defamatory writings against the court and the king. It is an aspect of reputation very well exemplified by Eleazar, protagonist of the opera La Juive by Jacques Fromental-Halévy. The threat of losing one's reputation, real or imaginary, in the eyes of the community is for Eleazar a harsher form of death than death at the stake. His second self, the most precious part of himself, matters more to him than physical life. It's perfectly rational in his case to choose the stake rather than throw his reputation on fire. The rationality of reputation is therefore more complex than a simple calculation of interests. Disinterest is often rational, for example, when it allows us to save an image of ourselves that is priceless in our eyes. Reputation management can be rational and sometimes more significant than direct interests, like life itself, which reflects the depth of human social interaction and is mirrored in Mipha's sacrifice. The third character I'd like to discuss is Riju, the young chieftain of the Gerudo. She's not a ghostly presence, but a flesh-and-blood leader tasked with upholding her people's legacy. Riju embodies the weight of leadership at a young age, with her story underscored by the dual themes of reputation and legacy. Her narrative arc is a story of self-doubt and empowerment, illustrating the complexities of assuming a role loaded with expectations. Her leadership is intrinsically linked to her ancestors and their legacy, again, reputation, especially the revered champion, Urbosa. Riju struggles internally, fearing that her ancestors, particularly Urbosa, might view her efforts with disappointment. This internal struggle highlights the philosophical notion that reputation isn't just a public perception, but also a personal battleground where one's fears and aspirations clash. The burden of living up to her people's expectations creates a palpable tension between Riju's desire to lead effectively and her lingering insecurities. The side quest, The Thunder Helm, further explores how reputation operates within social contexts. By requiring Link to resolve the townspeople's issues to earn their trust and the Sacred Helm, Riju effectively uses reputation as a tool for community cohesion. Riju manages to wield this instrument delicately, balancing the need to inspire confidence in her leadership while recognizing the importance of individual relationships. Her story shows how sometimes reputation weighs too heavily on our shoulders and the expectations we have created in others become an unattainable goal that crushes and distresses us. In this case, it is more rational to get rid of it, become someone else. Other times, however, we are forced to privilege the interests of our immediate self against those of our ideal self, such as, for example, the case of Galileo, accused of heresy and threatened with torture by the Holy Office, gave in and publicly renounced his theories in 1633. His life is saved and he is not tortured. He is forced to reside in Florence, in his villa in Arcetri, where he can see his family and disciples and continue his research until his death. He gives up his freedom of thought and his reputation as a Copernican scientist in exchange for physical freedom. In this case, his action is interested and rational, but it would also have been perfectly rational to decide to give up physical freedom to defend his ideas. Let's sum up. Rhoam is an example of formal reputation which stems from one's recognized roles and responsibilities within a society. He is marked by his commitment to safeguarding his kingdom. However, his approach to leadership is emblematic of Kantian ethics, where adherence to duty and moral law supersedes the family. This strict emphasis on duty meant he neglected emotional needs, setting up an internal struggle reflected in his daughter, also challenging to live up the reputation of his mother, and which led him to poor judgment in the building of military defenses. It shows how the more the reputation grows, the more difficult it is to manage it. A mere trifle is enough to lose it, to slide from the Olympus of the elected to that of the excluded. Mipha, the Zora princess, is remembered for her benevolence and strength, traits that shaped her status as a champion. The negative form of this reputation is that of Link among the Zora after her death, highlighting the darker side of reputation, as some blame him for not saving her during the Great Calamity. It is a kind of reputation resulting from the so-called informal reputation, which is the sum of the opinions that circulate about us. And it shows how rancor and resentment are always lurking. They represent the other side of this mirror of reputation, from which reputation cannot detach itself. Finally, Riju embodies personal reputation, which focuses on individual identity and self-perception influenced by internal and external expectations. She carries the weight of leadership at a young age, balancing self-doubt and empowerment. It shows how sometimes the expectations we have created in others may become an unattainable goal that pushes us to become someone else. I have tried to present 3 stories and their perspectives on reputation, which show the characters' journeys and the tension between identities imposed them us and those they choose. The search for authenticity mirrors the famous smile of Gatsby in Fitzgerald's novel, because stories of reputation are, in the end, stories of quests for authenticity. This authenticity emerges as the search for the harmony between the image we wish to present to the world and the way others perceive us. Our second self, for which we do so much, is not exactly the opinion of others, but rather what we believe to be the opinion of others, or sometimes what we would like others to think of us. No one can do without this system of referring the self back to itself. Without it, we would be like those singers who go out of tune at a concert because the microphone circuit is unable to send their voice back to them. All we have to do is perform, hoping not to fail. Thanks for listening. Before you leave, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and drop a comment for more content. Happy mindful gaming, and see you soon.